Stock snapping that four-day winning streak. This as the trade tensions with China continue to escalate. Meanwhile, the Senate voted to reassert their congressional role in tariff oversight after the Trump administration gave us a timeline now on the next $200 billion in tariffs. That was reported last night. But the real question for me, as I went through the list today, by the way, 195 pages and a lot of items, why is the U.S. importing so many of these things anyway? With me now to discuss, Shelby Holliday, Wall Street Journal senior video reporter, and Mattie Duppler, Independent Women's Forum visiting fellow. Ladies, I wanted to have a different kind of conversation because, you know, the same old fair trade, free trade stuff, we've had it a million times. But realistically, just some of the stuff, Mattie. Vacuum cleaners, TV components, bricks, dog and cat food. I would never give my dog cat food from China. Gypsum, copper, nickel, orange juice. Orange juice prices are down 15% since March of 2007. Yeah. Sewing machines, pistachios. You know, some guy tweeted at me on today, real nasty tweet about pistachios. Like, why should America be self-sufficient and why do you care about pistachios? Well, it's a $4 billion market that employs 22,000 Americans, but why can't we have a goal of being more self-sufficient?
Well, Charles, I wouldn't say it's a question of being self-sufficient. I would say it's a question of what are our core competencies. And our core competencies aren't to make every single thing we consume here. We are a global nation and a global economy because we do some things very well and we do other things less well. A lot of our industries that require raw materials, we don't produce those materials because we can't do them in a price-effective way. The great thing about the United States is that we are the best place to do business. So what we want to be doing is importing business here. We want to have people investing here. We want to have American businesses bringing their income into our shores, making sure that's going back to our workers. And we did that with the tax plan that passed at the end of last year and the deregulatory agenda that the administration has put forward. Now, with this trade efforts, though, I don't know what that says to the rest of the world when we're trying to get their business to come to the United States. What it does right now is it destabilizes what we had, which was a very certain economy and very certain investment rules, and it creates uncertainty that makes investors hesitant.
In this certain economy, though, the average American has seen their wages go sideways, drift slightly lower against inflation for 20 years. They've seen 7 million factory jobs vanish, and millions of people have become hopeless in this environment. So what Wall Street likes and what's good for investors, Shelby, I'm not so sure. And I'm not suggesting, hey, we want to, you know, be great at everything. Like, we want to make 18,000 things here. What I am saying, though, is that we did have a vibrant orange juice market. We did. You know, we can do some of these things here, and I know that's a comparative advantage, but to tell me that none of these jobs or none of these industries should come back or we shouldn't have a goal of bringing some of them back, I just think it's not right.
Well, in part it depends on the industry, because obviously something like orange juice is dependent on hurricanes and crops in Florida, and some of the issues that we're having with climate change obviously impacts farming. But then when you look at cars, for example, do you want to make car parts here and dedicate your time and your money to making car parts? Or do you want to make the next generation of electric vehicles like Tesla is doing? And not that you can't do both, but there's the argument that the United States is more advanced and able to produce really complicated and complex cutting-edge projects, not just
since we start outsourcing these things that we didn't think were any good. In 1979, China's GDP, share of global GDP, was less than 2%. Now it's 15%. It seems to me that they have benefited greatly from the things that we don't think are weren't worthwhile anymore.
Well, they have, and they also will continue to benefit greatly, because when you look at the Made in China 2025 plan, that is a plan to overtake the U.S. in terms of technology. Technology has always been dominated by the United States, and that's something the president's really worried about. And when you look at his tariffs, they're aimed at curbing that.
No, there's no doubt that's the central issue with a lot of this stuff, particularly when it comes from Lighthizer and some others. But before we go there, Mattie, I do think that there's sort of a Faustian deal, and I sometimes wonder, should we separate Wall Street and quote-unquote investors from the average American on Main Street that's being left out of this economy? Is there a way to bridge that?
Charles, I don't think that we have two economies for the American public. There's one economy that works for everyone. The reason that wages have not risen while CEOs get richer and businesses continue to expand is because we haven't had the capital formation that you would see and expect from an economy that's growing. That really needs to catch up. And the reason capital was sitting on the sidelines, very simple. We didn't have a system where companies wanted to invest. We had a crappy tax system with the highest corporate tax rate in the world and zero incentives to invest, and a bad regulatory agenda. agenda. Those things have changed, and we need to make sure that the rest of our public policy keeps pace with that. Continuing to broaden the ability of American businesses to do business elsewhere is one of the components that will continue to increase those opportunities.
All right, Mattie, Shelby, you two of the best. So I'm glad we discussed it. We will discuss it more in the future.
Thank you.
See you ladies later. Hey, President Trump gaining support from Hispanics, big time support. I'm thinking maybe